Seen Bitcoin, by the way, is up 10%. And not just Bitcoin. I mean, just looking at some of the other cryptocurrencies, Ether is up about 5%. There's others as well, up about 10%. Ripper is up about 3.5%. So a lot of these currencies are up.
You know, you start tracking these currencies very closely when there's a left out feeling.
You know what? I mean, as we discussed, what's the definition of a bubble? Simple, an asset class that you're not long in, Sonia. I mean, you know, it's here to stay. Of course, at some point it will get into a bubble, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, for now, people have missed out. Let's make no mistake about it. 99.5% people, I think, have completely missed out. You know, just how many people have Bitcoins? You know, you just see the number of people who have Bitcoins. And I think within that, it's 40 to 60% is concentrated in hands of few people. So
even in Bitcoin futures, actually, you know, a lot of the big clearing houses are not allowing everyone to trade in Bitcoin futures.
Now
very select clients. So I
yes.
guess that's a good thing, right?
That's, I mean, see, it's never a good thing to, you know, not allow people to, you know, it's not, you know, a good sign of free market. But I guess, you know, with margin requirement now so much, you know, that could be happening. A single Bitcoin is for $16,000. So obviously you can imagine. But anyway, let's look at our pre-market rates. We have Axis Bank, which is opening 3% higher. ITC is opening 5% higher. These are bizarre rates. So let's wait for these rates to maybe cool down a bit. In the broader market, Unitech is opening 20% higher. That's, of course, been news driven. A bit of a, you know, sort of gambling play going on here, but that stock is up 20%. RCF is up about 4%. We spoke about that stock. JP Infra, Religare. So random moves, Sonia, right now.
Yes, random moves. You know, there are a couple of stocks that are buzzing on the back of the upgrades, right? Arvind, there's a big CLSA upgrade that has come in on Arvind with a big target price of about 538. So Arvind is buzzing a bit. Jet Airways has been upgraded by Edelweiss, a huge target price of 822 over there. The stock is up about 1%. Thyrocare, the margins were pretty strong this time around. They've come in at 41% margins. So Thyrocare is buzzing in the green right now. SBI, this Goldman Sachs upgrade that has come in with a target price of 396. And in results, post-market as you had UCAL Fuel. That stock has had a great run this year. I mean, it's up 50% for the year already. And in pre-opening, UCAL Fuel is also buzzing quite a bit. But let's talk about the markets and let's invite Udayan Mukherjee into our discussion now. Udayan, hi, good morning. Before we chat about our own markets, what's your own take on what's happening with this whole Bitcoin frenzy?
Morning, Sonia. You know, I can't claim to say that I understand it like most people. You know, everybody's scratching their heads about what this phenomenon is. Yes, most people have missed out. That is also quite clear. It has the makings of a bubble. You know, when things go up 50-60% in a week, you know, very large or significant asset classes, you know that something amiss is going on there. But, you know, it is not an analytical take on whether it should be 16,000 or 14,000 or 12,000. You could have said that it's overheated even at 10,000 or 11,000 and it's at 16,000 now. So there is no saying when this party will stop. But, you know, having seen some of these things in the past, it will probably end badly. Now, whether it ends badly at 18,000 or 25,000, that's very difficult to say. But I can't claim to say that I understand the technicalities of Bitcoin enough to comment knowledgeably on it. And I think that would be true of most people who are talking about it today.
Oh, yes, that would be. In fact, you know, Sonia, just if you're feeling bad about yourself, last month or 2 months back, someone paid for a pizza by his Bitcoins, 2 or 3 Bitcoins. So maybe 2 or 3 years back. So you can imagine how he would be feeling. But Udayan, good morning. On our market, do you think the market has once again reversed to the template? While the correction was on, it looked like this time is the real deal. But it's been a swift bounce over the last couple of days.
Yeah, so, you know, we were talking about how 10,000, 10,100 may or may not hold last time, and it did hold out. So now I think the important test of that level will come next Monday when the Gujarat elections are out, and it depends on where we are on that day, how far the market would have moved up away from that level or closer to that level by the time we are there. But yeah, you're right that this has turned out once again like another 400-point correction, which looked like a deeper one when it played out, but the market did manage to bounce back. So I think there is growing conviction that this 10,000, 10,100 level will actually act as a very, very solid support level like 9,700 did a few months back. and the market might have formed a higher bottom. We'll see during the course of December if that turns out to be true, but the price action has been fairly remarkable in the favor of bulls.
Oh yes, it has. I mean, look at some of these stocks that are moving up. Sharda Motors is up almost 6% now, post its earnings. Ukal Fuel, as I mentioned, 20% higher. Arvind is up about 2% odd. Udayan, the other big cue that we're watching is the FOMC policy this week, but no one seems to care anymore about the impending Fed rate hike. Do you think the markets are growing less dependent and maybe even less interested in the loose monetary policy in the US?
Well, we've spoken about this for such a long time, and that's the one thing which the Fed actually does very well. It prepares you in advance so that there are no jarring notes and there is no additional volatility when the news is actually presented to the market. So, in a sense, they are masters of managing expectations. And this has been spoken about, advertised so much that it may at best, or at worst, I should say, lead to some kind of end of the year profit taking. I mean, markets may just take it as an excuse to take some profits home after a great year, and the US market has had a great year, better than the Indian market, which is not something which happens very often. So after such a good year, it could just be an excuse, but otherwise I don't see roiling market sentiment or leading to a massive correction or a sell-off or anything like that, because the news is out in the open. So in a bit, I think it's been reduced to being a bit of a non-event, unless the commentary turns out to be very hawkish for 2018, which again also seems unlikely.
Okay, by the way, the market rates have settled, and well, it looks like that Thursday-Friday rally is going to continue. This morning we of course have support of Asian markets as well. The SGX Nifty was indicating about 30-point gap up. The pre-open is actually indicating 45-point gap up. 10,310 is what we have, and the Bank Nifty as well is 0.5% higher. The mid-cap index would open within 0.4% of a new lifetime high. So that's going to be interesting. Udayan, I'll come back to you. Ashwini, your thoughts on how the market is showing pre-open rates, and whether there is any opening trade, or would you want to sort of wait before you take a trade?
See, unless you are very, very, very nimble, the opening trade you may not be able to go long, because chances are that we are going to hit resistance fairly soon. But people who are positional, who hold positions from Thursday, etc., should continue. I don't think there's any reason for them to get out. But overall, I think the better trade will happen at about 12:30.
Okay, and what's your 9-10 call, Ashwini?
See, Bombay Dyeing has restarted one of its moves on the upside and tends to move fairly sharply. This is a buy with a stop of 225, target of 242.
Okay, that's Bombay Dyeing. By the way, Maruti is opening another 0.75% higher. Then I wanted your thoughts on Maruti. It's been phenomenal. Now, in fact, 2.75 lakh crore market cap, higher than the likes of Infosys, State Bank, HDFC. It's been a spectacular move on the stock.
Well, yes, and the lesson, of course, in names like this is that you should never be in a hurry to sell out. I mean, periodically, there was some plant trouble quite a few quarters back, and that was the last time the stock corrected meaningfully. And at that point, there were lots of question marks and doubts, and if somebody had bought then, I think the stocks doubled or trebled after that. So, you keep holding. I mean, there are not too many better auto exposures in the Indian market than that. So sometimes periodically it will look overheated in terms of valuations, but its valuations, I know it's an auto company and it's not FMCG, but given its growth, I think there might be a time when people will like to say that, why do we give these FMCG companies with 10-12% growth these kind of multiples, and why can't we give it to an auto company which is also a consumption play? So I think there's a fairly significant valuation band re-rating which is happening for some of these very durable and secular auto plays, and I think Maruti's are right at the helm of that.
Okay, well, SBI is the other one that's getting some traction this morning. The Goldman Sachs upgrade has a target price of 396 on SBI. So let's see where it takes that one. But today, in pre-opening, SBI is up almost about 1% or so. Odin, we were speaking with Mark Mobius on Friday, and it's interesting the kind of sectors that he is positive on now. Telecom for one, he spoke about Reliance, and he also talked about PSU banks. I know these are a few sectors that you're not a big fan of, but what do you reckon could be the trajectory here in 2018?
No, telecom, I think there are some signs that the sector might have bottomed out. It's what you play, and we've spoken about that over the last 3 or 4 months. And I think Bharti is in that kind of situation now where, I mean, if you have to own a telecom stock, I think people are coming around to the view that it has to be the big boy. But frankly, the way the price action has been as well, it seems very unlikely that Bharti will go back in the foreseeable future to a sub 400 kind of level. In fact, it may go on to make a new high very soon, about 540, 550, wherever it was. The African news has also been quite positive. The only wrinkle, and I think, you know, not everybody is a believer in telecom. While it's not a completely contrarian play like it was 1 year back, I think even now there are a lot of disbelievers who think that Reliance's aggression in the space might actually mean that it may not turn out to be such a hunky-dory story of margin expansion as a lot of people believe over the next 2 or 3 years. And eventually that aggression will come back to hurt some of the incumbent players. So we'll see how this plays out. It's safe to say that the sector has bottomed out, but the upsides, I think, over the next couple of quarters will depend heavily on the kind of news flow that we hear from the latest entrant into the sector. But it's good that not everybody's become bullish on telecom suddenly. There are bears and there are bulls, which makes the case interesting and probably leaves the door open for more upsides in the Bharti stock.
Well, then, of course, this week, on Sunday, I think we'll get the Gujarat election outcome. How big is politics going to be from here on? Because till about 2 weeks back, there was some bit of, despondency in the market about the Gujarat outcome, and now all of a sudden the market seems quite sanguine about it. So, going forward, as we head into election season of big states, how big is that as a trigger?
You know, Anuj, I think the little bit of panic which crept in 10 days back into the market may actually have been a good thing in terms of preparing the market for not a very thumping result in Gujarat. Because before that, it was like a foregone conclusion that the BJP will win with a huge majority. Now, the fact that there is a little bit of uncertainty in the market means that there is a little bit in the price already that the result may not be that good. If it is good, then there is room for upside, and the market will probably go on to make a new top above 10,500 on the Nifty. Of course, it depends on where we are by Sunday. But if the result is a middling kind of result, BJP wins but not with a huge majority, I think the correction will not be very severe because the market's going in with its eyes open right now. But there are two scenarios. I think if the BJP gets less than 100 seats, I think there will be a correction in the market. It may still not be enough to break 10,000 on the way down, but we'll probably get close to that. And in the unlikely event of the BJP losing, I think we are in for a fairly significant year-end correction, and that could take us back down to those 96, 9700 levels then. But it's not something which is base case for anybody in the market at this point.
Oh, yes, point taken. Just about 10 seconds left for markets to open, so let's just wait for that. It promises to be a good start, but keep in mind we've had two back-to-back 300-point rallies on Sensex, back-to-back centuries on the Nifty. Could it be third day